Thank you for being here at our town hall. The plan is we're going to go through our normal stuff that we normally do, get kind of updating you on some of our finances, our numbers, all that kind of good stuff, some major decisions we've made recently regarding certain things. And then I'll kind of wrap it up with the conversation about the conference stuff. And are you up first? This is Brett Robinson, our operations manager.
Good morning. Okay, so he led into the town halls. We have town halls quarterly. This is our second one. So I think we had one in January. So I'll try to cover some things that occurred from January through May. And one of the neat things that we have is a leadership addition to our guide team, and that's Pam Wilson. If you know, our guide team is our church council, our leadership group. We have 10 individuals, and she makes up our 10th. I'd like to talk about Easter worship because we wanted to look a little bit at how it compared to pre-COVID Easter. I think in Easter 2020, we didn't even have worship gatherings, so we're trying to do some comparisons to see if we're getting back to some normalcy, and we are. We always knew that the Sunrise Beach service was our largest service, and it continues to be. So we had almost 500 people at the beach and 329 here in the combination of two services. But total, 1,000 people worshiped. We had many people online live streaming if they weren't at the beach. We produced a pretty good live stream from the Cardinal Approach. So we had about 200 people that watched that online too. So all in all, people were participating with us on Easter, so that's certainly some good news. I'm happy to say that I feel pretty comfortable in here. It feels cool in here. And we didn't miss a beat. So we have, not to get too much into detail, we have a few different air conditioning components for this building. One is inside, we took care of that last year, but one is outside. So if you walk to the back, there's an air-cooled chiller. It produces cold water to our system to cool the building. We knew that it was in need of replacement, but we didn't know how quickly that would need to be taken care of. And I came out here one Sunday morning, and it had totally failed. So unfortunately, the price tag of these things are high. $119,000, which we paid for out of reserves, and that's something that Scott talks about every week. You know, we give to the church, and this is not something that's a fun thing to pay for, but we don't really have to talk about it because it's not something that we have to come to the church and ask for, and I think that's pretty neat. To have that in reserves, to have it taken care of, no one misses a beat. That's just a neat thing. And instead we can talk about raising money for Beachside or for Anua or something like that. So we bid out the job, and the lead time on stuff is so long now. I think they were telling us December, I think, is when we would get the new one. But we found a contractor that was able to provide us with one within about 3 weeks. So that's in. You can see a picture of that crane and all that sort of stuff. So the useful life on something like this is 12 years, so we can kind of plan now to know that that's 11 or 12 years down the road. Our facility use changes, that's kind of a broad term, but we allow outside groups to use the church. We had a pretty rigid document from the conference telling us who could and couldn't use the church, and that didn't seem right. So we turned the document into something that's more friendly for those outside groups. Usually they're not for profit. We also want to protect the church and some liability issues there, but we also want to be welcoming, and so we changed that document a little bit to allow those groups to come in and use our facility with less red tape. We're still working on Halifax improvements. We're running into a little bit of some budgeting things with architects, but I can tell you we're still working forward with that. We've made some great strides with communications. Our communications director is excellent. Yeah, I agree. He's not here today, but I wanted to report on some of the things that he's been working on. And you may see it when you're on live stream or sound or just little things there, but there's also some things we needed to purchase. So you'll see that we redesigned the website. That actually turned out to be a cheaper option, so we're paying less. Not everything's necessarily a financial burden when you upgrade. We realized that the choir would probably be better served rehearsing and doing some of their stuff in a downstairs room. So if you know where the old choir room has been turned into a recording studio or a videoing production room. What that allows him to do is go right in and shoot the video. He doesn't have to set up green screens and teleprompters and videos, and that makes everyone much more efficient. And in the day where we're working to be really good with videos and trying to be on social media and things like that, we need to cut that time in half. So we had a gift specifically for these communication type things, and we've been using it for some of those things on the list there, and that's one of them. We also were approached by someone who had difficulty in-person service listening or hearing. The song and the words are up on the screen, but when the message is delivered, there's some difficulty there. So we have tablets that are available now. So if you have difficulty listening to Scott or the message, it transcribes the words for you. It's a free app. You check out the tablet from the guest services desk and come in here, and it will transcribe it for you so that you can listen to the message. And we're on TikTok. So Scott's on TikTok, and I think, some of the videos were like 5,000 views or something like that. So we're broadening our social media presence. Trudy, if you could go to the next slide. We had a few staffing challenges this week, so we normally show videos when someone's unable to be here, but because of those staff challenges, we don't have videos. So if you watch the recording later in the week, you'll see Amy's update. Amy has her own service today, so she obviously can't be here. Usually we produce a video and we show that. Also, Marshall Snyder, who's our SPRC chairperson. So I'm going to read his piece verbatim, just so we can get that out there. So this is directly from Marshall. It's a few updates on SPRC. I have 3 subjects to cover with you this morning. The first one is that the SPRC recently completed the annual performance evaluation for our 2 pastors, Scott and Amy. As part of this process, the SPRC reaches agreement with each pastor on their 5 primary roles. We then evaluate them, and they self-evaluate themselves on each role. This process is broken down into 3 basic parts as follows. What are they doing well? What needs improvement? And what are their next steps? I am pleased to report to you that while each pastor has identified areas to work on, and they tend to be tough graders, the overall appraisals were quite positive. Our church is very blessed to have both of them. The SPRC and pastor evaluations are merged into one report, which is then transmitted to the Florida Conference. The second subject is about the vacant youth ministry position. We have been searching for a youth ministry leader for the last several months and have had no success, not even an applicant. The position was defined as part-time, and after surveying other churches similar in size to ours, we found that the position at other churches is full-time with benefits. We also got confirmation that top-notch youth leaders are in short supply. We recently asked the guide team to approve an enhanced job description for our youth leader. The description expands the leader's responsibility to include the gathering place, and it also calls on the leader to have a greater presence in the community where youth tend to gather. We increased the minimum education requirement and recommended that the position be made full-time with benefits. The guide team supported these recommendations along with the funding necessary to support the enhanced position. The good news is that we have interest in the position and are planning to have it filled by the end of summer, which is when Scott and Caitlin would like to be finished with their youth ministry substitute role. You have already heard that we will have a part-time youth ministry helper this summer. His name is Mitchell Johnson, who is a student at the University of Florida. He is already here and working. My next topic concerns the search for a worship leader at the Gathering Place. Pastor Amy and her team are actively recruiting in places where musicians and vocalists can be found. In the interim, volunteers are doing a great job filling in.
Hey First United, my name is Amy Armistead. I'm the pastor of the Gathering Place, which is a new community of First United out in the LPGA area. And I am coming from our new location, which is called The Foundry. It's a co-working space at 728 Fentress Boulevard. And this is where the Gathering Place will be meeting on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. for worship. The best part is we are going to have a presence in the LPGA area throughout the entire week, because starting June 20th, my office will be officially moved from First United over here to the Foundry. I'll have a private office and we'll have access to conference rooms and classrooms and of course the open space to worship on Sunday mornings. We think this is an amazing next step for the Gathering Place to be a church that is on the move, that is gradually progressing towards our goal of one day creating something extraordinary on Williamson Boulevard, a place that will serve our local community. Now, previously we were at Westside Elementary School, and we are by no means done with our presence there. They're our partner school, so we are still committed to doing the Read Aloud with Partners program throughout the school year, where we tutor second graders in reading. We just celebrated last week our end of the year awards ceremony with our tutoring students, and we had 14 kids complete the program this year, which was so exciting. Thanks for the First United folks who helped out with that. As well, we have a community garden where we work with honor students every Wednesday and learning how to grow their own foods. And of course, things like the Easter egg hunt and teacher appreciation events, all those things will continue to happen. We're going to double down our efforts in serving that community. As well, we have committed to, on the second Thursday of each month, have a presence at Derbyshire Place at their food pantry, where we are going to be having volunteers run that program on Thursday throughout the day from 12:15 to 3. So our presence and service is still strong in the community, but we're so excited about this next chapter in the Gathering Place's life. And that wouldn't be possible without the support and encouragement of the First United family. So thank you so much for all those who made this happen, and we're excited. So come and visit us. By the way, there's a coffee shop at the Foundry that is open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. throughout the week. So come visit me and I'll treat you to a little cup of coffee. Thanks.
So I think the next presentation is from Julia. Julia is our guide team chairperson, but also serves on our Williamson negotiating team. Oh, there was one announcement. We had a power line down in the south parking lot. So if you're parked there, you're going to need to kind of go through the alley. Thanks, Chuck.
Hi, good morning. I have a quick report this time, which is wonderful. And number one, right off the bat, we have been paid in full for the largest parcel of Williamson. Hooray. Yep. And we actually got some interest on that because it was a split payment. So that was really nice to see. We have paid off our debt, and we've put 10% of those proceeds directly into our mission giving fund. And the rest is going into an investment fund, and I think Mark's going to give us some details on that. But we don't have anything earmarked for that money right now. It is not for day-to-day operations. It's for projects that may be coming up, and those are things that will be approved by the congregation and by guide team, but nothing in the works right now. We are still under contract on Parcel C, which is on the southwestern part of what we still own. It's mostly wetlands, there's some uplands there, and the idea is it's going to be used for a big retention system that should serve all of our land as well as the Williamson Road widening project. Our contract states that we're not going to close until we have written confirmation from the county that that system has been approved. And we've had some preliminary approval from St. John's Water District, but nothing from the county yet, so we haven't closed on that parcel. The contract runs out at the end of this month, at the end of June, so we're in a kind of wait and see situation to see if we move forward with that, or we may have to renegotiate that contract. So we'll be letting you know updates on that as they become known. Okay. That's it for me.
Good morning. I get to bring some more good news here this morning. So, given the finances through the month of May, so you see the chart up there. The green line represents 2022 giving. The red line represents 2021 giving, and the blue line represents 2020 giving. And I do this report every guide team meeting. And so what you can't see there, what you do see there on the green line is that the fact that revenue is up every single month this year as compared to the last 2 years. But I'm going to give you a little bit more clarity on the numbers. So far in 2022 through May, we've had giving up to the number of $544,274. That's through May. As a comparison to the red line, which is 2021, $429,213. So we're looking at approximately $120,000 more in giving in 2022 versus 2021. So what's also important about that is that our revenue budget for the year so far is $451,375. So we're $93,000 to the good on our revenue versus budget. What's also important in those numbers is the fact that our expenses year to date are $441,068, which means our revenue over expenses for the year so far is a little bit over $103,000 to the good. So it's really indicative of this congregation giving during difficult times, and we are all getting hit by inflation. Nobody can avoid that. So it's a great thing to see that we are continuing to step up to make sure that we have the finances necessary to support the programs we have here in the church. Mission giving year to date, we are at $150,000. Our goal for the year is $400,000, so we are pretty much right on line there, right in line. One thing I didn't mention about the numbers, in May of this year, just last month, the revenue we had for giving was $128,496 for May. That's not in the numbers up there, but $128,496 for the month of May. That's usually one of our smallest giving months of the year. We budget for the month of May $85,000 in giving. And again, I'll repeat myself, $128,496. That is typically like our December numbers. So we might look back at the end of this year and May could be our largest giving month of the year. So it's amazing. Julia talked a little bit about the investment, the money that we have from the proceeds of Williamson property. That money is being invested. 10% of the Williamson property proceeds go into mission giving, an investment account, and the balance goes into our general investment account. We're probably everybody in this room is invested in some way as an investment account, and you've seen that investment account dwindle down a little bit over the last several months with the volatility in the market. So I wanted to bring this point up. I think it's important. We have an investment policy statement that was developed last year for the church, and that investment policy statement is followed by the folks that invest our money. They're a local firm here in town. But this is an important statement, I think, that everybody needs to understand. And this comes right from our investment policy statement. The primary objective is to prudently manage risk of assets by diversifying investments for purposes of trying to maintain the fund's principal through market volatility. Preservation of principal always takes priority over maximizing returns. So it is a conservative investment strategy. So although we're seeing some of those, the investment proceeds, we're seeing some of those numbers become a little bit negative, It's a long-term investment strategy, so we're not concerned about short-term negative results. Our cash position year to date, beginning of the year, starting this year, we are at $912,758. That does not include any of our investment money. This is just money that's in our bank account. So the beginning of the year, $912,758. Through the month of May, we're at $870,969. But remember, we've had almost $120,000 being used for the new chiller. So that came out of reserves. We didn't take that money out of anything else. So our cash position is very strong. Church is doing awesome. There's always a concern of giving real positive, information on our finances because we don't want to let our guard down, right? We don't want to let our guard down. We just keep giving, keep supporting the church's programs, and it should be a great year. Thank you.
I'll need this one. All right. So on that, one of the things, Mark said, we always think about, you start talking about giving's going well, and people are like, oh, well, then I can stop giving. Except for make the connection what Brett said and what Mark said. We're doing well financially, and Brett said we paid for our chiller out of our reserves because the guy team that Julia leads, at the end of the year when we have money left over, they're wise in going, something's going to break at some point. We're going to plan. We do good Dave Ramsey stuff of, hey, there's going to be an emergency. Prepare and plan for it. So thanks for that. Brett and I just said we're going to take questions on everything kind of at the end. If you've got some, we may be doing it in the lobby just due to we want to be fair to the 11 o'clock service. And I want to talk a little bit about, I'm not going to talk about annual conference. Rebecca can handle that. She usually does a report on that at some point. And literally, it got over yesterday. 12:45ish or something like that. So it's kind of fairly new. But I'm responding to several of you email me, or not you maybe. Several people email me. There was a Fox News report last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever it was about churches in the United Methodist Church in North Georgia who are disaffiliating from the denomination. And what does that mean? And so to disaffiliate from the denomination means the church has made a decision to leave the denomination. We are United Methodist. They made a decision to leave the United Methodist Church. Now, I'm thinking through my wording here, wanting to be, I just spoke about no slandering, all that kind of stuff. So there are two sides to every story, and the middle is probably the truth, so remember that. However, I am clear, I want to be upfront 100%. I am United Methodist. I am staying United Methodist, so I am presenting it from the United Methodist. I'm a United Methodist pastor, so I'm presenting it from the standpoint of the United Methodist Church. The denomination that's kind of starting or beginning to start is called Global Methodist. It used to be Wesleyan Covenant Association. It's now called the Global Methodist Church. They launched May 1st. They will tell you it's over a variety of issues and situations. It is not. It is primarily 99.8% over LGBTQ full inclusion. Can persons who are LGBTQ be married and ordained? Now, we will argue, both sides will argue about all kind of other stuff, but if you want to cut to the core, that's really what the core is about. And if you're going right now, I had no idea this was an issue. I would like to remind you that in 2017, 2018, and 2019, Rebecca and I did a series of classes and conversations and discussions in our church called Point of View, talking about this issue. And so if it's new to you, I would love to tell you this up front. We are willing to do this. I don't know if Rebecca is, but I am. And Rebecca will do it with me. If you want to get together with us and have a small group meet at your house or whatever and discuss what does it mean to talk about LGBTQ full inclusion in the United Methodist Church, I'm willing to do that. If you want to do one-on-one, I can do one-on-one, but I'm also more than willing to sit down with you in your house and have a conversation with you and whoever want to be there. If you want to work, I'm more than willing to sit down and have a conversation with you and anybody in your house that want to talk about that. That's part of our church. I don't need you to bring in your friends or your neighbor that go to another church to tell us. I mean, it should just be clear. Because unfortunately, I say that because I've had some people do that. So you got to be committed to First United and staying at First United. We'll have that conversation about it. But what it means, so what happened, and I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but there's been a pandemic. And it shut everything down. The United Methodist Church, as we talked about in 2019, the United Methodist Church General Conference, which is the only organization that can speak on behalf of the United Methodist Church, made a decision on the traditional plan. The traditional plan is what it's called. It was passed, and actually some language changed. In the opinion of a lot of United Methodists, the language became harsher towards LGBT. In fact, they want us to ask people point blank, are you LGBTQ? And talk about your sexuality and your partnerships. And some of our arguments, no one's ever asked me at any ordination thing, am I having sex with my wife? Not once. No one's ever talked to me about sexuality at all. But now they're wanting us to kind of ask those questions. And there were some other things that happened. And there was a big movement afoot on that. And in 2020, we were supposed to have a general conference. And the delegation in the U.S. that we're in United Methodist Church, we elect delegates, just like you elect representatives to go to a Congress to talk about things. The delegations in the U.S. had clearly shifted, and everybody agrees with this, towards more of an inclusive stance. And so this new denomination, the WCA, began to form and transitioned out of that. They created something in 2020 called the protocol. The protocol was going to allow churches to make a decision to leave. And if you do this, this is how it's going to work, because there's something in the United Methodist Church called the Trust Clause. The Trust Clause is this: as long as First United stays First United Methodist Church, this is our property. As soon as we decide not to be United Methodist, the Trust Clause kicks into gear. What the protocol said was we will release every church of the Trust Clause if they choose to leave with a set of things that they're supposed to do, and they can take their property, etc. Yeah, as long as it's over LGBT full inclusion. We had a pandemic, so we didn't have 2020. We had another pandemic in 2021. And then in 2022, the United Methodist Church is 11 million members from all over the world. A large portion of them are from Africa and the Philippines. It is extremely challenging for folks from Africa and the Philippines to get visas to get into the U.S. in a timely manner. So they made the decision, there's no way we can get this to happen, and so they just said it'll take place in 2024 to make some decisions. So let's just say everybody's irritated, rubbed up against each other, that kind of stuff going on. So on May 1st of 2022, the Global Methodist Church launched as a new denomination, and church and pastors started thinking about going. And so y'all saw the report from Fox News. It was all about North Georgia. That's North Georgia. In Florida, this week, 13 churches in Florida voted to disaffiliate, and the conference approved it. One of them was my home church. So the church I was baptized in, confirmed, felt my call, and my 2 Sunday school teachers led the charge to lead the denomination. So it's a little raw for me on that. And they solely left over LGBTQ inclusion. I want to be clear on that. Here's the other curveball, just so you're aware of this. That means as of July 1st, they're no longer United Methodist. Their pastor, who is a local pastor and now no longer has a job, because in the Methodist Church you have to be full connection elder to be guaranteed an appointment. He was a local pastor, and he knew this, and he's fine with it. But that church has no pastor come July 1st. Because there's not set up yet to do that. So just kind of share that with you. But to leave a denomination, if you choose to leave a denomination, you must follow paragraph 2553. Paragraph 2, and this is the legalese crap that happens, because you got to realize, you're talking millions of dollars at churches, property, all that kind of stuff. And what it said, which was voted on and approved in 2019 by the traditionalist group that became the WCA, they said for you to leave, and this is a vague understanding of it, you have to make sure you're paying your apportionments, your conference connectional giving. You've got to pay them full for that year and for the next year, which is because our budgets are based upon 2 years in advance. So for First United, I know that number's like $80,000. So we'd have to pay, because we're paying at 100%, we'd have to pay an additional $80,000. You then also are responsible for showing that you have gotten insurance for your church and your property. Because that's hard to do. We are insured by the conference. If you leave, it's just like a car. You can't buy a new car unless you show proof of insurance. They're wanting you to have proof of insurance. They're also wanting you to work with an attorney, and they provide the attorneys for you, to say that you will own any legal suits that are brought against you. For instance, if we were to leave the denomination and we found out that there was an issue in our youth group and we are being sued, does the United Methodist Church or the Global Methodist Church handle that if it took place when you were United Methodist? We want to be, there's a term, release from indemnity or something like that, whatever it is. Jennifer, you may know. There's some term. Agree to that. And the big kicker, you have to agree to continue to pay. You have to pay before you leave your unfunded pension responsibility. And that's a chunk of change, supposedly. And I've asked, just because I want to know, because I need it for some argumentative purposes, what would it cost First United to leave? So I've asked. I did a horrible thing on Friday. I went up to the church conference treasurer, who I knew real well, in the middle of all the chaos. I said, hey, Craig, can you tell me how much it would be for First United to leave the denomination? And the DS was there, and Craig was there. He goes, I'm sorry, what did you just say, Scott? And I went, and I had to say, I'm not asking us to disaffiliate. I just want to know the number. Because here's why. It's a numbers game. Because a lot of churches, now what I need to tell you is Florida had 13 disaffiliate. I'm watching my time. We had 13 disaffiliate. On May 2nd, so May 1st, the new denomination started. On May 2nd, unbeknownst to any bishop or any district superintendent, 94 churches sent letters to the conference saying we wanted to leave. So they didn't follow the rules. And they sent letters saying we want to leave. And they want to leave under paragraph 2548. You're like, well, why does that matter? Because paragraph 2548 allows them to leave without having to pay for anything. Most anything. What they want is to leave with an agreement with the conference saying we promise that we will keep paying our pension fund. And the conference has said, you're asking us to trust you when you're leaving us. And for me, what I said is, if I get divorced, I ain't trusting she's going to pay me. Right? And this is, I want to admit to you 100%, I am invested and I am swinging hard in these meetings right now. There was a shift within me that occurred. I had this annual conference, people went, something has shifted in you. Yes. People started playing dirty and my friends got hurt. And I am really good about if you hurt me. I'm pretty good on that. You start hurting my friends and my friends' kids, I'm not. And I went to some of them. What they're wanting to do, paragraph 2548, just so you can know, was put in the United Methodist Book of Discipline in 1948. It was put in the United Methodist Book of Discipline in 1948, so churches, primarily churches in the South, could leave because they did not want their churches to integrate. And I have told churches, the fact that you want to use a Jim Crow era rule to leave the denomination, you should be ashamed. Because it's all about you wanting to save money on that. If you want to lead the denomination, play by the rules. Now, here's what I'm telling you. I am not leaving the denomination. I am United Methodist. I'm 100% on that. I also want to be fair, and I've said this at Guide Team. If the church, if First United wanted to wrestle with this and look to leave the denomination, I want you to have the ability to do that and to look into that. As long as we're clear, the only reason you would be leaving is about LGBT inclusion, so at least have some conversation with me about that. But if you want to leave the denomination, I want you to be able to have that conversation. But I want to be clear, I ain't going to help you. I'm not going to go with you. The Guide Team, and they can wrestle with that and talk about that. And I also want to be clear on this. The GMC is wanting the vote to be majority. The protocol was 57% because that's halfway between 50 and 66. All right? Because the Methodist Church said, let's at least have a 2/3 vote. I can tell you, I know that we had some private conversations when we voted to sell our Williamson property, that if the vote would have been 52 to 48%, I wouldn't want to sell it. That's too risky. I wanted a super majority. The Guide Team, according to the protocol, would be the group that would set the percentage for us to leave as a church. And I'm going to tell you, I will push 100% for a super majority if we want to leave. Now, why this all came to a head this week, and I got 2 minutes. So at annual conference, we ordain people. That's one of our main goals of ordination at conference, is to ordain people. In the United Methodist Church, there's a step called commissioning and then ordination. Commissioning are folks who have graduated seminary and are starting to be pastors. And so they're usually younger, just graduating seminary, and it's like a medical residency. You got 2 to 3 years where you're working in a church, and then you go to full connection elder or deacon, whichever you are. And so we have 3 groups we vote on at an executive session. There's local pastors. Those are people who want to be pastors of churches but haven't gone to seminary. They're commissioning, and then they're full connection. And full connection is you've been through your residency and you're ready to go. For the last 31 years in the Florida Annual Conference, we have always voted each one of those as a group. Local pastors, commissioning, full connection. This year, there were 2 candidates that came before the Board of Ordained Ministry who identify as LGBTQ and were open about it. There have been several in the Florida Annual Conference that have been ordained who have not admitted that they were LGBTQ. These 2 were open about it. You also need to know one of them is my friend's daughter. And I promised her I would stand beside her. So, to the people that spoke against her the way they did, I stood beside her. So, what you need to know is this. Every candidate that goes commissioning turns in 30 pages of theology, 30 pages of personal growth, 30 pages of leadership, a full sermon with all the stuff that goes behind it, and a Bible study. That all gets reviewed and is interviewed. Now, the curveball is nobody on the board of ministry knew anything about their status until after the vote. They were approved 100% based upon all their paperwork. And then it became known that they were LGBTQ, and that's when the fireworks hit the stands on stuff. And there are a variety of issues and reasons on that. So there were several moves in the clergy session of annual conference, and I'm just going to tell you what I did so you can be aware. The first vote came back. Lots of debating, arguing, all that kind of stuff, and we took a vote. The first vote came back. We need, because of a new rule in the Book of Discipline, you need 75% to be ordained. WCA wants 50% to leave the denomination, but they made sure that you have to be 75% to be ordained. So the vote came back, and we had failed. And then I got up and made a speech. And I could not move to reconsider because I had voted yes on the candidates. But somebody did feel compelled and changed the vote to be reconsidered. And we debated that, and then we took a second vote. You need 75% to pass. They got 72%. 7 votes in the Florida Annual Conference. That's what 7 votes. And you know this, because I openly went after some people, because they told me this. They told me, Scott, if the discipline changes, because the discipline has not changed, if the discipline changes, I would vote for these candidates. And I said, that's the crappiest line I've ever heard. Because theologically, you have made that decision, and you're hiding behind a piece of paper, like some people did, saying, I'll let you sit on this bus when the law changes. I'll let you pee in the same bathroom with me when the law changes. I'm like, if you've already believed it, change your vote. So, anyhow, we did not move forward with commissioning those 16 candidates. So then there was a move, because the clergy vote on that. The laity then had a motion to have a resolution to affirm these candidates and to help them with a few rules. Because once there's a time clock and all that gets ticking, and so there's this resolution that went before the entire annual conference, and to affirm and to help them move forward, and it was passed by 80%. That's a rough estimate because they had everybody stand, and I did a rough count. I would say about 80%, right? So that's what you need to know. That's where we're at. What's probably going to happen? I know what's going to happen because I'm intimately involved in this. There will be a called session of clergy at some point this fall. The bishop wanted to do it Zoom, but 2 pastors, McGray Vega and Scott Smith, told him, no, it will be in person. We need to be able to look each other in the eyes and have these hard conversations. Just like I want to be able to look you in the eyes and have these hard conversations. So that's kind of where we're at. Let me again tell you, I'm United Methodist. I am staying United Methodist, even though my home church isn't. I want to be upfront and transparent with you. The two leaders of the conservative denomination, the Global United Methodist Church in the state of Florida, are former pastors of First United Methodist Church of Ormond Beach. Chris Akers and Jay Therrell. Jay is the national president of the Global Methodist Church. They were both associates here at First United. So you just need to be aware of that. And I want to be upfront about that. For me, I'm United Methodist, and I'm staying United Methodist. If you would like to have a conversation about the LGBTQ issue, I'll be glad to at your homes and all that conversation, and we'll update you more. I got 10 minutes. Brett, Julia, and Mark will be in the lobby, and I will too. Thank you all.